Property Mentors is proudly sponsored by Roma Finance and Aria Finance.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Warwork.
And I'm Martin Roberts.
And we're the Property Mentors. Now, Martin, I brought you somewhere rather special today.
Okay.
And that is my hometown of Reading.
Okay.
Somewhere I know a little bit about. Done a few deals here. It's a great investment location, but I'd like to tell you a little bit more about it. So why don't we go into our office and figure out why this is a great place to invest.
Okay, let's do it.
We're going to be meeting Johan today.
Johan.
Johan is from London,
Okay.
but he's looking outside of London.
I'm looking forward, first of all, to meet Nick and Martin. Really looking for their expertise around doing bigger development. Hoping they've got some good sites in store.
There is a bit about this one, isn't there?
Yeah, the graffiti's for free.
It is.
Well, I moved here straight out of university. I actually bought my first house here. This was actually where it all started for me. I bought that first house with a student loan.
Wow.
And took quite a bit of risk for the deposit. Thankfully, it paid off. Refinanced it 2 or 3 years later, and moved on in property. And that's how I got into property. So it kind of was fitting that, you know, I stayed here and grew the business around this area. But Reading's a fantastic location. The Elizabethan Crossrail line, and that's central London in about 20 minutes. And Paddington was about 20 minutes. I think that's even further cut down, and then you're right into central in record time. So that has, you know, that's been priced in a little bit over the years. Clearly, when that was announced, there was a flurry of investment into the area. But, you know, that's tailed off a little bit. But it's the infrastructure locally. Absolutely. I mean, there's huge business parks around the outskirts of the centre. You've got Microsoft, you've got Oracle as a big IT firm, a database firm, huge business parks full of many, many young professionals. So, you know, with the first-time buyer market being quite high in terms of age demographic these days, you know, you're interested in mid to late 30s, there's a huge opportunity for investors to buy here, rent out to good quality, high-end professional people. It's extremely well connected on the motorway networks. You've got the M3 and the M4, it's right on the M4 in fact, the M3 not far away, and then the M40 slightly further north. So you can get up north quickly, you can get down south to the coast quickly.
And prices then?
Prices are in the middle. It's not the cheapest area in the country, but I would say it's a very good value area still. You know, that Crossrail price did get priced in a few years ago, so that brought the prices up. If you'd invested here 10 years ago, or 20 years ago was my first site, Martin, I'm very pleased. Got a little bit lucky in my first house. I think we all do when we get into property. But now the prices are sensible. You can afford to buy a flat here. You know, one bed flat could be anything from sort of 180 to 260.
Okay, so not London prices.
So not London prices. Yeah. It's affordable for most.
So what kind of properties do you think we should be looking at today? I guess that depends on who we're going to be mentoring today.
Johan is from London,
Okay.
But he's looking outside of London, quite rightly, because the yields in London, the prices are too high, yields too low, and thus people are looking further afield. And the Thames Valley, where Reading sits between that M3 and M4 motorway corridor, represents good value.
And he's a big time investor, is he? And
he's reasonable. I mean, he's not been going too long, but he's got a good amount of capital to invest, and he wants to get going quickly. So the two schemes we're going to show him today are build to rent schemes, I believe.
Okay.
So I think he should be holding on to them and renting them when finished. So it'll be interesting to see what he thinks of that.
Great.
My name's Johan Turner, property investor based in North London, based in Enfield. Been investing for around 15 years now. Currently, right now, I'm doing a lot of single properties, so buying properties, refurbishing them, renovating them, and then selling them on the open market. You know, I'm in the process of moving on to doing multiple flats, commercial conversions, so really looking for their expertise around, you know, what to look for, how to assess those properties, and do bigger deals overall.
Look who's here. Hello. Nice to meet you, Nicholas.
How you doing?
Johan, good to meet you.
How you doing, Martin?
Take a seat. So, welcome to Reading. Tell us a bit about you and what you're trying to achieve.
Great to meet you both. Predominantly, I'm looking for an investment really on two sides. One, something I can invest my money into and then get my money out of it. So either fully money out or leaving as least money as possible left in the deal, or something to flip. So on the investment side, potentially converting to flats and renting those flats out, or maybe a HMO. And then on the selling side, converting to flats multiple units and then selling that for a profit. So,
And have you had any experience of Reading? Because we've obviously brought you here because we think, well, Nick especially knows the area really well. You think it's some great opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we found for Johan today could actually deliver either of those exits. And I think it's important with any property investment, isn't it, to have multiple exits. You know, you could have a buy to rent model, you could have a buy to sell model. So, you know, those are two very obvious exits, but it's important to have both of those really, I think, in most developments, in case the market changes.
Prices here compared to Enfield and around where you live, I think you'll find positive.
I think you'll find them fairly priced. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, London is crazy prices. What would one bed be in Enfield?
one bed in Enfield, you're talking anything 300, 350, and that's just for a flat. So
we're going to move you to the next level, I think, here, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. I mean, Johan's clearly got some great experience, and you know, we meet a lot of investors that want to take it to the next level, do a bit more hands-on development, add a bit more value, and that's what property development does. So what we're showing you today is 2 property developments, reasonable scale, not crazy scale, but I think something you could step up to. That you can add more value than just a straight investment, and that's the key to getting your money recycled, which is what you said you wanted.
And roughly how much have you got to invest?
I've got around £500,000 to invest, so I'm hoping.
It may be that some of the properties that Nick's sorted out seem a bit expensive, and we are trying to push you, okay, but we can also show you ways to get to that next level. A lot of people are constricted by the fear that they don't have enough money, and that is actually one of the least things you need to worry about, because there'll always be people who will invest in good projects.
It goes one step further. It's not having the belief to think big enough.
Yeah, okay.
And then if you think big enough, you can often find a way. If the deal's good enough, you can attract that angel investor or that joint venture partner.
Exactly.
The landowner might even joint venture with you.
Now, we have one slightly worrying thing to tell you.
Okay.
You have to travel there by a 60-year-old, 70-year-old Volkswagen
Limousine.
camper bus. No.
It's a limousine.
No.
It's leather interior.
It's
It's more comfortable.
The furthest away from a limousine you could ever imagine.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. So just bear with us on that. But let's head to the first site, okay?
Let's do it.
Go. Right.
Yeah, we're about 100 metres from the main Oracle shopping centre, so you couldn't get more prime.
Good for bus services.
Good for bus services, good for all the services. The railway station's about 200 metres down to our right. We take this junction up here, and this part of Reading is called Jackson's Corner.
Right.
And as you'll see as we walk up on opposite the building we're looking at, you'll see it's still named Jackson Corner, which was a famous multi-retail store. Lovely spot opposite Jackson's Corner, and here it is, the building we've come to see. Look round. After you, sir.
Thank you.
Right, following me in here, chaps. So, this building being so central to Reading, you know, you literally couldn't get a better location. You've got the Oracle there, we're at the end of the main high street, Friar Street, and Broad Street, which are the two main sort of high streets that Reading's got. Whether you're a student wanting to be near the amenities, whether you're a young professional working in the town, it's got a huge appeal to a wide number of people.
It's iconic in lots of ways with this sort of strange rounded front.
It really is, and being opposite Jackson's Corner as well, that's the iconic retail store in the centre of Reading. That's protected historically. It's a well-known section.
It looks like a great location.
Yeah, it's a cracking location, and the
what do we
building
know
is
about the
beautiful.
history?
I mean, it's been used as an office, retail on the ground floor. It's currently vacant throughout. So the good news is there's lots of opportunity, which we'll talk you through in a moment.
Great. Should we go and have a...
Yeah, come and have a wander. So you can see straight away the office is still residing here. Actually, really, really beautiful office, isn't it, guys?
Looks like really good condition still.
I could definitely have had my office in here. They've spent some money on it.
What a location.
But there is a fair bit more value to be added, not as an office.
Right.
So the opportunity is converting this to apartments, basically. Very high value apartments in the town centre of Reading. Reading ranges from the low 200s for a one-bed apartment. Most of these are one-beds in this building to maximise the value because it's under permitted development rights.
Right.
So we can really maximise that by getting a larger number of small units in. So there are 3 floors of residential potential residential, above the ground floor retail, 4 flats per floor.
And is this, so I'm clear on this. Is this planning already approved?
Planning is, well, PD, permitted development, is already approved, which is the cut down version of the planning that we have at the moment.
Yeah.
It's done under what's called a prior notification application. So that's been approved, but there is a cherry on the cake, quite literally, because there is a planning app almost been approved for another story, for another 4 flats.
Oh, wow.
So up to 20 apartments in this building.
That's great.
Pretty unheard of in Reading in particular, to get something, an extra story on top. It's quite tricky. You know, when you look around, there are some quite historic buildings actually in the town centre, the type of roof that they wanted up there. So they say there's a 90% chance they've got that planning. But I'm sure we could offer subject to that coming through anyway, just to de-risk any final risk on the planning phase.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what I like about it is it's a nice open plan layout. And with offices, you've just got free reign to come and design what you want.
Yeah.
In terms of the size. I mean, look at that, facade there. You've got windows all round. So this area we're stood in now would probably be 2 apartments, and there'd probably be another 2 over in that part of the building. Yeah. It's a very simple design, 4 per floor.
Do you think because of the location, these flats would warrant a higher marketing price, a higher sales price?
I do believe that, yeah, absolutely. And I said, we're ranging from the sort of low 200s for 1 bed, but that would be out of the town. It might be in an ex-council type building or a particularly bad conversion building.
Yeah.
We are in prime RG1.
Yeah.
It really doesn't get much better than this. And if they're done to a high standard, I think you'd easily achieve in excess of 300, maybe up to 330.
Wow.
There are apartments going around the town centre for up to 330 at the moment. So that's a fair old GDV of 20 apartments. Follow me, chaps. Here is a pretty sensational view.
Here's that cherry you were talking about.
Come and have a look.
Little duck under. Wow.
Ta-da!
Roof line view.
Pretty epic view, isn't it?
So what's the plans for this then?
So just to recap the building, we've got the retail on the ground floor. There was a failed attempt at getting the planning to residential on that, but in such a restrictive area, it was refused. You've then got the 3 floors, each with 4 flats on, so 12 flats in total. That's under permitted development, and then a full planning app for another 4 flats on the top.
Imagine the flats up here. I mean,
great view.
Skyline of Reading. I mean, and just amazing.
Incredible views. The only restriction was that they'll have to bring back the roof line ever so slightly from the front, just to give that little staggered approach, just for the street line view, to keep it looking attractive.
Yeah.
But apart from that, looks like that's going to be approved any day now.
So let's talk through the numbers on this one then.
So if we're being relatively conservative for the town centre, we would say 300,000 for a good size 1 bed. I've seen them go upwards, and they're on the market now for upwards of 330.
20 potential flats.
So 20 potential flats
At 300,000
300 grand each. Let's say an average of 300.
6 million.
Maybe
6
a bit more
million
for these
GDV.
ones?
These would they're slightly smaller, but I think you're right. Being the penthouses, I think you would get a little bit more for them. There'd certainly be a higher price per square foot than the ones below them.
This is back of an envelope. 6 million.
6 million. Build cost, it's about 7,000 square foot, give or take stairways and bits and bobs that we're going to have to reconfigure. So if we said a couple £100 a square foot for the construction phase, we're talking 1.4 million to build it. There'll be some consultants fees on top of that. But even if it was 2 million, including the consultants fees, the asking price, the guide price, they're looking for just shy of 1.3 million guide.
That sounds so
which
cheap.
is very cheap. Now, I've heard that the vendor's looking for a fairly swift sale. He's got his eye on another building that makes him more money. So they are developers, they know the area. It's a case of jump on a better building, but I'm quite happy to pick up their scraps.
And this is off market.
This is completely off market.
So nobody knows about this.
No one has seen this.
We are introducing you to some amazing stuff here.
Looks great. And I love the roof space. That's a big bonus, I think.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And the centre of Reading, to get views
in
across the whole of the town.
You're going to get a 3-bed semi for that.
Yeah.
You might have to sell up and buy an entire block. Get the rest of the cash together. You've got to go to sell everything.
What are the downsides on this one?
Can I be honest? I'm struggling to find them. The PD's been approved with no parking because Reading Town Centre encourage parkingless schemes.
Right.
Unlike other towns in the area that sometimes need the full national space standard for parking requirements. So, I don't see a huge downside.
Right.
Other than perhaps the market conditions we're in. We've had the pandemic still in recent memory. Material prices and recent inflation in the market is, it's a bit uncertain.
Yeah.
But I think there's plenty of buffer there to worry about that kind of thing.
But of course, that is just one of today's exciting opportunities. And the next one might be even better.
Indeed.
Should we go and see it?
Let's go and take him round.
Have a look. Okay.
Property Mentors is proudly sponsored by Roma Finance and Aria Finance.
There you go. So,
Here is this lovely piece of blue wood for you.
now, there is something about this one, isn't there?
Yeah, the graffiti's for free.
It is, and we can't get into it. So,
We can't get directly into it, but it's cordoned off because it is dangerous. It is almost a derelict building.
Right.
It is an ex-funeral director's.
Oh, right.
So if you ever wanted to be a funeral director, now's your chance, Johan.
We can go around the back and get a much better view, which
can.
we'll do it in a second.
We'll go and show you
But
down
in
there.
terms of locations,
Location, the other side of that church is the main Oracle shopping centre.
Right.
So we are a similar distance to the town centre as we were a moment ago on the previous site. A couple hundred metres, that's all. So great location.
and what's the planning?
So it's got planning for 19 apartments. So we'll go around the back and get an aerial view, shall we?
Yeah.
Much better view. Follow
Let's do
me. Down this way.
That's where we were, isn't it? Behind that gate over there on that main road.
Yeah.
Behind the gate, yeah.
Better idea now? We've got this single story existing thing, which presumably this is all a knock down and start again job, is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not essential to get in. It's nice that we've got this raised car park to the rear that we can actually have a look at the plot quite easily.
Yeah.
Don't need to look at sort of aerial views from a drone for this one. We can stand up here and we are the drone. But yeah, that's just a knockdown. It's just a simple site. It's about 0.2 of a hectare, around about that sort of size. So it's not gigantic.
Okay.
But there's going to be a 4-storey building on there.
Wow.
19 apartments. It's a
Nice.
slight mix. They've got only 1 3-bed in there. There's 11 1-beds and 7 2-beds.
Right.
So a good mix of units. As developers, we like to get in slightly smaller units, because we can maximise the GDV, maximise the price per square foot for a smaller unit. So we
Yeah.
don't like the bigger 3-beds. They're less saleable as well. It's not really a family unit, it's a 3-bed flat. You tend to then move into the smaller house range. So it's a good mix actually with the 1s and 2-beds.
And planning permission already in place?
Already in place, so that's all done.
Okay.
There's a couple of complications with that. Well, not complications, a couple of standard planning things you have to bear in mind. There's a bit of a
Yeah.
SIL payment. That's 160
Community
grand.
Infrastructure Levy,
That's the
CIL.
one.
Yep.
Another form of tax, basically. And there's what's called a Section 106 payment, which is relevant to helping with sort of appropriate
On
council.
top of a CIL?
On top of a CIL, indeed. That's just shy of 100 grand.
Right.
So, you've got sort of about 200, 250 grand to work with in cost to the council before you implement the scheme.
What are the numbers on it then?
So they're pretty juicy. I mean, they're asking a guide of 2.2, but actually, I think there's room to manoeuvre there. It's been on the market a few weeks, this one, so unlike the other one, which is fully off market, I think the opportunity here is potentially it looks like a slightly restricted site because of the road that we just came from.
Yeah.
It's not actually. When you look at the access, and I've looked in detail at the planning, you can come in, you can locate your skips, you can get entry in off that road quite easily. So I think that might be putting a few people off. Demolition might put a few people off. There's a bit of groundworks to be done here before you
Yep.
get going. So I think the key is getting some due diligence done here before we exchange on it. You'd want to do a couple of bits of due diligence on the site before exchanging.
Right.
You'd probably want a land contamination report, and I'd advise just getting a couple of demolition quotes as well, because that could be quite a big unknown at the beginning. I think rough numbers, the build construction cost on this is going to be about 2.5 million, so about sort of 4.5 million, and GDV I've worked out just shy of 6 million.
Right.
So there is a chunky profit in it. It's very, very close to the town centre, so we're going to get good high capital values on this.
Yeah.
A bit like the other site. I think slightly less, 10, 15 grand less an apartment, but we'll be still up there in terms of the overall numbers. So if you can get the site cleared reasonably cheaply, and that's where all the risk lies, as soon as you start coming out of the ground, it's a nice new build, 4-storey building, off you go.
Which
19
has
apartments.
sort of more controllability to it than a refurb or a change of use in lots of
Definitely.
ways.
Yeah, when you're out of the ground, it all gets a lot easier. The building's designed before you even start. So once your foundations are in and you've worried about the ground that it lays on, it's just straight up you go as quickly as possible. They knock them out.
How long do you think it will take to build out this site?
I think once you've got the site cleared, it's a 12-month build.
Okay.
You know, maybe even slightly shy of that with a big enough contractor. The key to this site will be getting the right contractor.
Yeah.
So going through the tendering process, designing the building all up front, getting all your drawings done, all your surveys done, your architecture, your multi-layered drawings showing how the mechanical, electrical, that's plumbing and electrics, whether, you know, every single nut and bolt and light socket goes, you hand that to the contractors so they can price on the same thing.
Right.
Then you're about picking the right developer, the right construction firm, I should say, that's got the right track record, the right pipeline, they're not overexposed on too many sites. You have to look at all their accounts. You know, we go into an awful lot of detail with our QSs and project managers when we pick a firm to do a site of this size. So it's all about picking the firm then at that point.
What do you think?
Looks good. I think there's loads of potential here. Looks like a great site in terms of size. So, and the numbers sound great as well. So,
Yeah,
Right.
I think there's a lot of potential here, isn't there?
Definitely. And you can say you've been a funeral director for a few weeks.
Well, you know, there's money in that for sure.
There is.
Should we go back to the office and just review what we've seen today?
Yeah, I'd like to
and
hear
maybe
Johan's-
get your thoughts.
Yeah.
To his
Okay,
thoughts.
let's do that.
Let's do that. Okay,
Great. Okay. Woo, what a day. Right. Woof. Well, that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour of Reading.
It was.
But Johan, two really interesting sites. Tell us first of all what you think about Reading. From obviously you've seen it a bit more, and then what you've actually seen in terms of the opportunities.
Yeah, I think Reading is a great area. Actually, I know Reading quite well because I used to work here. A couple of years ago, I was actually working in Thames Valley, Thames Valley Park, which is part of Reading. So yeah, I'm familiar with Reading town and I know the area quite well. So yeah, I think it's a great area. It's still growing and very close to London, so lots of potential.
What about what you've seen? Let's start with the first site, the existing building.
Yeah, I think the first site was great. I've been looking at offices already, so it's right up my street in terms of what I've been looking for. I think it's a great opportunity. It's got planning, potentially more flats on top. I think the number of flats, we were saying 16 units without the commercial downstairs and 20 units with the commercial. So I think huge opportunity there. Sounds like great numbers. I think that one's a really great, cracking deal.
But there is a lot of potential for that ground floor still. So whether we can get the planning overturned and reapply to get flats there, or just lease it out on a good lease as commercial.
Right.
There's extra value there that we didn't really factor in. I think
Yeah.
when you consider that alongside the resi, it's a nice little mixed use scheme if you retain the commercials. So.
And then the second site.
Second site clearly needs more work. I've never done a site from scratch before, so that would be something completely new for me. I think that one is more work, probably more money, but again, I think second site as well, you know, large number of units, the numbers sound good, so.
If you're starting from scratch, you know, the construction goes up, everyone knows what's to be done, and there's no surprises.
Yeah.
Very easy to cost. You know, you'll get a builder doing fixed price, or if that's the way you want to go, you know, you'll know exactly what you're going to spend. With refurbs, you never know what you're going to find. It is a new building, that first one we saw, so, or newish, but there's still going to be stuff that you have to rip out and start again. How old's the electrics?
Well, the roof's a bit of a risk, isn't it? Because
risk.
they have some plant up there. I noticed there was a couple of the AC units.
Yeah.
So actually relocating that,
So
not as simple as it
so,
looks
so
sometimes.
maybe some of the numbers are a little more unknown, but you know, they're both. I think they both have a lot going for them.
Yeah, both a lot juicy margins in both.
They're both a lot more, if you don't mind me saying so, a step up, perhaps, from where you're at now. How do you feel about that whole concept?
That doesn't scare me. I think for some reason, it feels like the bigger, the better to me. You're getting more units. It sounds like the numbers work a lot better the larger you go, because I've looked at a lot of smaller sites and, you know, the margins are very thin. I think as you go bigger, it's easier to get the GDV, it's easier to get that plus value from it. So yeah, I'm up for doing something big.
Right.
That's exactly why I'm looking for your help.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of hoops to jump through, but I think hopefully at the very least we've opened your eyes to the possibilities that are out there.
Yeah, and when you take that next step up, you know, it might be other risks there, but if you work with the right people, then you can deliver those sites still,
Good.
provided you can pull the capital together.
Well, hopefully it's been a useful experience for you.
It has. It's been a great day and some great opportunities. So
Good. Well, good luck with whatever you decide to do.
Glad you enjoyed it. Nice to see you. So that's what 12 million quid's worth of property looks like in Reading, Martin.
Well, that's the potential value of it in the end, and I think two really interesting projects there, covering both sort of options when it comes to this kind of thing, either redeveloping and changing an existing building to suit, using those permitted development rights there, changing the office into residential, or a complete new build. So interesting to see which way Johan decides to go if he goes through either of those projects.
Yeah, two completely different styles. Once you're out of the ground with the new build, you leave it to the main contractor. There's not a lot that can go wrong. Famous last words always, but not a lot that can go wrong. I like the challenges of a conversion. I like the creativity of maximising the space within them. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see which one Johan goes for.
Well, that's it for another Property Mentors show. If you'd like to take part and have Nicholas and myself advising you, then get in contact with us with the details that are around the video that you're watching right now. But for now, cheerio.
Take care.
Property Mentors is proudly sponsored by Roma Finance and Aria Finance.